Hello, Neverwinter. Um, we're going to have a lot to talk about today. We're going to be talking through the Warlock changes, and then I'm going to provide a little build advice. Usual disclaimers apply. The build suits my playstyle. It won't suit everybody's playstyle. I've had success with it. You may not have success with it, etc., etc. The idea behind it is just to give you guys a bit of my understanding of how you can get some good damage out of the Warlock following the stat changes and also some pretty serious class changes that have been implemented. So I think we'll start with the build and then we can talk about some powers and stuff. So obviously with these changes that have been implemented, we now have the ability to get up to 120% in some stats, which personally I think they've come to the understanding that they kind of implemented a pretty rubbish stat system to begin with. Um, the ratings and percentage thing, it's weirdly complex, like unnecessarily so. They've totally bottlenecked themselves on equipment, and I think with that understanding that they now have of that, they are attempting to undo it somewhat without having a massive combat rework like they did last time, which pretty much got rid of quite a lot of the player base. I've tried to maintain it as a somewhat semi sort of general build. Obviously, there's a lot of very niche specializations we can do for particular dungeons, but what I'm basically trying to do is get the stats up without having to put in some crazy gear or weird gear. You know, try and maintain that item level a bit. Alright, so stats wise, this is assuming that we're going to have a portobello, a flapjack, and a tutor running, and some pack tactics. You know, all the sort of usual support stuff that we run. We are using the critical severity pants, which are not 100% at the time, but they are reliably up enough. There we go. 11.5, that's close enough. Right, so obviously the 18% from the Raptor takes us most of the way up there, and then the Portobello on top. And we are even slightly overcapped on that power if stuff like Runic Aura is running. Combat advantage, we'll get another 5% from the Tutor, another 3.5 from the Da Vinci, and then the Pack Tactics on top. Obviously combat advantage works in tandem with awareness, so if we have skills that are actively lowering the awareness, we don't actually need to fully cap combat advantage. I mean, stuff like dulled senses, so usually someone would be running dulled senses. 9% awareness drop means combat advantage can be 9% below the cap, because obviously over a certain level it ceases to actually do anything. Okay. Ability score wise, you might be interested to know that I'm running Dex instead of Charisma. This is for the critical severity. We get an additional, is it 0.5 I believe? Yeah. So the extra points into the Dex are giving us an extra 4% crit save, which is obviously more important these days. than the... What do we get for that? We get 4% power if we put it into charisma, which we don't currently need. They are giving us quite a lot of avenues for getting power in. Okay, so equipment wise, still running a lot of the Master Lair, the Mad Dragon gear. Actually, most of this is old gear. Yeah, so this one comes from Master Lair, the Mad Dragon. It can be a bit hit and miss. I mean, if you're prone to dying a lot, all these stacks will drop off when you die, so then you'll be losing quite a lot of combat advantage, but them's the breaks, I suppose. You just gotta get good and not die. We're keeping on the Masterwork set. There's an argument for running the new detector set. Which I don't have on this thing currently. Hang on, I'll have a Spelljammer. God knows where I put that. Too many tunes, my friends. Too many tunes. This set. Yeah, so this is actually quite a lot of stats. I'm not entirely sure what the uptime is like. Probably quite good if it's lasting for 10 seconds. That's what a lot of people are running at the minute. It'd be, what's that? 7% combat advantage, 7% forte, which is like 3.5% power. So I can see why people are running that. Tried to avoid it personally, partly from laziness and partly because it doesn't have particularly good stats for a DPS, especially ability score wise. Obviously, intelligence is our damage multiplier modifier on warlocks. So I have tried to maintain this set instead. I've kept this ring on. It was just a bit too tight on the power. I mean, I've kept this on mainly so that it's still like a general build. It can be used outside of the Dread Sanctum. Obviously, with the additional 2.5% power that I would get with this other Dreadbreaker ring, I could then slot in one of these rings and do a little bit of reworking on the build and get a little bit higher item level. But like I say, I want to give it mostly a general sort of build. So this ring comes from Wildspace. It's a very good ring. It can be upgraded actually, but I don't know. Getting all those pearls is a massive pain in the ass. But it does go, it can be a higher item level thing. It can be giving you a bit more stats. But absolutely no way can I be bothered doing that farm. So I've had to switch out the... I say had to. This build can be reworked into a different configuration, and you can get rid of this, and you could put the combat advantage chest back in. And I think I will, like, if the crit Sev arms drop, I would probably switch this this chest piece back in, and then have the crit Sev arms in here. But I'm working with what I've got right now, which is these. So there is a new version of these which drops from the new dungeon, which gives 9% crit severity, which are pretty good. Like I say, I don't currently have them, but if I do get them, I would work them in, because they function in the same way. So, well, maybe I wouldn't work them in, because I can afford not to have that 7% crit strike more than I can afford not to have the 9% crit severity. in the sort of alternative direction. Anyway, if you've got those crit save gloves, then it becomes more viable to run the combat advantage chest piece, basically, which would then give us more accuracy, which is always nice. I put in the new weapons from the new dungeon here. Mostly for the power, to be honest. There's definitely an argument for running the magma weapons, and then you can sort of rework the rings a bit. There's quite a lot of scope at the minute with the changes they've made to the equipment as well. For those of you who aren't aware, the reason why these are dropping with such unusual looking stats is because they've started to weight the stat allocation based on how powerful the stat is. So that's why we're getting less power, less combat advantage on stuff, and more crit severity, more crit strike. It's based on the amount of effective damage that it causes to happen. They're doing the same on the tanks, so we get a bit less awareness, a bit more crit avoid, stuff like that. Obviously this doesn't really work in this build now because we're actually a little bit overcapped on crit strike in perfect situations, but obviously you can rework it again. Like I say, we've got a lot of scope at the minute. Okay, so I've got this chest piece in. It is actually noticeable, the that cooldown. You know, I feel it when I don't have this shirt on. What's that new one? Yeah, so this is the updated one for AP. So I've been thinking about this, you know, AP gain in general, and if you can currently get your AP back in time for an artifact call, that's all you really need. Unless you've got so much AP gain that you can get your daily back twice inside a single article, then you know any AP gain, any AP gain more than that. So you'd have to be getting your daily back every 25 to 28 seconds or so to make it be worth stacking AP gain. Otherwise, all you're doing is sitting with your AP full for a little bit until you've got the best time to use it, which is during the article. I mean, that's for consistency. If you've got a playstyle where you're often activating your daily outside of the artifact call, then, you know, go for it. All power to you. This is still a good shirt if you need the combat advantage. If you think about it, it's only 3.2% more accuracy, more combat advantage than this Ember Infused shirt. So that's, you know, it's not. Yeah, we're getting to the point now where we can move away from that shirt. Although it does, you know, it still has its place in some builds for sure. There's other shirts like this, you know, if you're really struggling for power. And then there's a crit save one as well here somewhere, I think. Yeah. Obviously, the problem with the stamina ones is that it's not like it's a sliding scale with the stamina ones. It's like as soon as you drop below 75% stamina, you lose all of those stats. I mean, if it tailed off a bit, it'd probably be more useful, but you don't want to not want to dodge, if that makes sense. You know, there's a lot of mechanics that go on in a lot of places, and you want to be able to dodge. You don't want to be not dodging. Artifact wise, this is just whatever to make up stats basically, and obviously they're going to be asking you to run a specific one as well. So you might just need to slightly adjust stuff depending on what active artifact they're asking you to run. Yeah, that's just the offhand for that one. Okay, now there's one that might be a little bit controversial. So these are actually the best combat advantage boots that we've got because they can give you up to 20% combat advantage, right? If you're engaged with 10 targets, 20% combat advantage. I mean, what I showed before, we were just engaged with 5 targets, so we got a 10% bump to combat advantage damage. And then obviously with the awareness modifiers on top as well, you know, you've got a bit of leeway with combat advantage, which you don't have with something like power. The vast majority of dungeons dungeons in general that we've had recently have had quite a significant amount of mobs popping up as well. So like this is definitely worth running on the second boss in Dread Sanctum, and certainly on the last boss in Dread Sanctum. I think you'd quite often cap out the boots, especially on that last boss in Dread Sanctum. There's an argument for running it on the second boss in like Master Lair the Mad Dragon and the first boss in Master Lair the Mad Dragon, and then conversely, say the last boss of Master Lair the Mad Dragon, you're only getting 2% off these, which you know is not going to be ideal. And then we do have these ones for a bit more combat advantage. Yeah, this is the sort of, I try to generalize it as much as possible, but for specific dungeons, you're going to have to change it up slightly. Specifically these boots. But like I say, if you were running the crit save arms, you could be running the combat advantage chest piece, and then you could slot in, say, the crit strike boots, and then it'd give you a bit more flexibility as well. But then again, specifically with these arms, and it's the same with the crit severity, these arms will only work when there's 3 or more enemies as well. So again, that would not work for, say, the last boss in Master Lair Mad Dragon, doesn't really work for the first boss in Dread Sanctum. So there's just a lot of depth going on with this at the minute. You're going to have to adjust on the fly for a lot of things, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I mean, it depends how much you enjoy doing it. Right, these activate quite regularly, but like I say, they are not necessarily 100%. But there's no cooldown on it either, so yeah, the de-up is high enough to make it worth having them in there, basically. But obviously, people have their own opinions on variable chance to activate stuff. I should say the reason why we're not 100% solid on all these stats is because we've maintained 3 damage companions. So obviously, if we were not running 3 damage companions, it would be a lot easier to hit consistently, like green stats on everything. But the drop off in the damage is noticeable if we take one of those damage comps out, unfortunately. Enchantments, just making up the stats basically. I would rather have awareness jewels in this defense, but I'm not going to upgrade a load more awareness jewels just to put them in. I'm sure at some point we'll get something that's got a load of combat advantage on it, in which case I'll switch these back into the defense slots. Because obviously awareness again is the most powerful defensive stat that we've got. I'll come back to the powers. Master Boons, all the standard ones basically. Obviously I'm running a set of 5 Master Boons. Bloodlust, bit of AP gain, bit of extra damage. Life Lessons activates a lot more than you might think it does, given what it says the activation rate is. Enhanced Application also activates quite often, and sometimes the heal and that damage reduction is clutch. These 2 things have got a very high uptime. They activate off self heals. I'm pretty sure they also act or have the potential to activate when you summon a soul puppet as well. I haven't actually rechecked that recently, but that's something I should look at. Forte here, recharge speed, action point gain. Those are the only ones I really need. Lingering Medicine as well. This activates quite a lot and can be very useful in situations where your healer's struggling a bit. Yeah, I haven't updated with the Hot No equipment. I'm pretty sure there's version, basically because I'm getting a bit tired of spending AD for bloody companion equipment, right? Whose idea was that? There is an updated version of this from Mount Hot No though, so if you have it, go for it, I guess. I'm using Enduring Senses. It's over acute senses. Basically, it's very temperamental, these chance on hit ones. I mean, it's up to you guys, but I mean, the last thing you want is to drop like 9% combat advantage just before you throw a TV out, you know. But I mean, yeah, you can bump up your combat advantage by 3% if you know, don't worry, not too worried about it occasionally not being there when it should be. Companion bonuses. The Raptor is now once again the single best companion in the game. Oh man, they're definitely not doing a good job of making that less important. Minsk. What basically it's very similar to the last setup I had for this. Um, Obviously, Golden Cat down here. They really need to give us some more useful utility power things. I do have a build version of this with the wolf in there. And then I've just switched a few other things around. Obviously, the wolf is insanely expensive though, so it's not something I would want to put into a recommended build video really, because it's difficult to get hold of for most people. I'm running Flapjack here. The setup for this is a Portobello, a Tutor, and a Flapjack, so 1 DPS will need to run the Flapjack. But I mean, the Flapjack does half semi-decent damage, especially in AoE, so it's not a huge loss. Mount-wise, I'm using the Golden Warhorse. The Golden Warhorse has one of the smoothest animations, which is why I use it. I don't know. I don't know if stuff like the Bigsby's Hand is still doing a hell of a lot of damage these days. I don't think I actually have one of those. Obviously, the Wicked Lich is no longer functional, unfortunately. But you know, just straight up TV's good enough if that's all you've got. I have put Dominant Force in here, but looking at the way that those stats are laid out, I could probably switch it over to something else. I think there's a power combat advantage one somewhere. Obviously, if I mean, if we've got enough power anyway, then we could switch over to something like ferocity. Ferocity's pretty good. Wherever it is. But anyway, yeah, so just whatever you need for your stats in there. Um, yeah, so basically I've stacked every version of stat gain insignia that we can do. Um, and then just one tactician's precisions. It's a bit weird on the warlock because our we kind of need to do our daily before um, we do like a full encounter rotation because we get most of the benefit of tyrannical curse is the fact that we're spamming all of our encounters inside it. So tactician precision isn't actually as useful on the warlock as it is on something like, say, a wizard, just because of the nature of that daily that we use. So powers wise, this is where the sort of big change has happened. Obviously, there was a big rework of warlock skills recently, and it has led to two distinct pathways on what we can do now. So the first thing to show is the Soul Scorch. As you see there, that is a 1.16 million hit on a single Soul Scorch. Which then also triggers a dot. Doing a bit less now. That might be my stats. Oh no, because I didn't have combat advantage on it. One sec. Okay. Yeah, 1.25 million, and then a dot triggered off the back of it. I'm just showing you that to show you why I have changed what I've changed. So this is with double scorch activated. That with this activated, Soul Scorch now becomes our single highest hitting thing that we have when it's got max stats. Significantly more powerful than Killing Flames, with the dot added. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, becomes a 900 magnitude hit, and then a potential 450 magnitude dot. That's just insane. Versus the other damage. Do you know what? I didn't realise they'd changed Killing Flames like that. Okay, so Killing Flames now effectively has Executioner's mark added at all times. That's pretty cool. Or Executioner's gift added at all times. Yeah, so that's to justify that change. So basically, I've changed from Power of the Nine Hells to Double Scorch. I've kept everything else the same. They've reworked our Soul Puppet so that it does a decent amount of damage now. Obviously, it's not. You don't really want to rely on the Soul Puppet for that though, because it's a bit stupid and it kind of does whatever the hell it wants. Due to that change though, I mean, we do want the Soul Puppet to be there basically. We just don't want to miss out on that huge hit that we get from the Soul Scourge. So we have had a bit more reworks on our powers. If we use Hadar's Grasp on a cursed target, it will summon a Soul Puppet. If we use Killing Flames and we actually kill something with Killing Flames, that will also summon a Soul Puppet. I was expecting that to die then. That was pretty weak. So that's why I'm not that's why I'm not running Blade of Vanquished Armies, because I wanted to run the Hadar's Grasp to summon the Soul Puppet. But if we were in, say, the last boss in MDS, we could quite easily use Killing Flames to kill an ad to summon it instead, although that's going to be somewhat unreliable, but I would still say Blade of Vanquished Armies is one of our fastest sort of DPSing things. We've certainly got a lot more options now as well though. I would still, I'd say it's a choice between the 4 of those for single target though. Hadar's Grasp, Blade of Vanquished Army, Hellfire Ring. And then for the rest of the set of powers, we've got Dark Helix on. Dark Helix is now incredibly good with a very slight amount of animation cancelling. You can just very gently tap and then get those sparks back in seconds. It's absolutely fantastic. And then if you're feeling a bit, feeling a bit extra, a little bit sweaty, you can throw in some Hellish Rebukes, get those dot stacks up, and then that helps keep your daily ticking up as well, and just helps spot. We've got a lot of interesting playstyle mechanics now that we can add for just a little bit of extra DPS. It's quite fun. A lot to think about, a lot going on, but fun to use. So this is with the cooldown reduction path. So be aware there is an entirely different path that we can go down, which is more of a wizard sort of playstyle. Obviously for AoE you might want to slot in a fireball instead, or curse bite as well actually. You'd want to rework a couple of things probably if you're going to run a curse bite build. And if you're in a place where you're dying a lot, Vampiric Embrace is actually quite useful, just on a DPS for keeping yourself healed up. Infernal Spears is still really shitty to use. It's not good. It's not good play mechanics basically with that one. Could do that one reworking a bit more as well. I still haven't really used Dreadthreat. I'm not sure. I don't know if anyone wants to say in the comments if they use it a lot, if they like it. It's not something I would use really. It's good that we can walk around a bit, but I don't know, it's like we're locked in for those 4 seconds and we can't spam anything. Yeah, I don't think, in my opinion, those 2 powers are not worth really looking into. Daily wise, Tyrannical Curse is probably still our best. We've got a lot more going on now, though. Well, we've got a little bit more going on. Yeah, this is probably a highest single target hit. It's Yeah, you might want to switch over to that if you're running the sort of more wizardy way of running. I'm sticking with Tyrannical Curse for now, but I'll keep playing around, see what we like. Yeah. It's a shame that they. Apparently, this was always doing 800 magnitude, and they just had it wrong when they said it was 1600 magnitude. But if they'd put that up to 1600 magnitude, it'd serve us a lot better, I think. I can't remember. Is Gates of Hell still a massive pain in the arse to use? Let's see. I don't know. It's not as bad as it used to be. Right. So it needs to actually be within the pathway of it then. Do you know what? That might not be too bad. Might not be too bad. If anyone's been playing around with Gates of Hell, let me know. Doesn't look I don't know. It looks kind of more useful now, but I think that positioning is going to be very important to get it to actually do any damage, unfortunately. I mean, you could just lose the whole thing, presumably, if they... Oh my. It's a pretty cool animation, though. Yeah, for sure. And it completely missed the last one in the path. Weird. Well, that looks like fun, if nothing else. Right, so I've got Deadly Curse on here. Someone did tell me that it doesn't work because it doesn't apply the curse every time, but from what I can see, that is incorrect because it does seem to apply every time. As you can see there, your Deadly Curse, your Deadly Curse, your Deadly Curse. So that is working as far as I can tell. Hence why I've got that on. These two are going to be very close in damage, I think. Obviously, the issue with plus damage is that we already have plus damage, so this percentage is not the percentage of the damage increase goes on base damage. So each percentage greater damage plus that we get has diminishing returns. And I'm explaining that terribly, but basically what you need to know is the more plus damage percentage stuff that you have, the less effective it is, basically. So with the plus damage on that we already have, this then, the effectiveness of that 5% might be as low as 3%, 2% or lower, whereas the 25 magnitude damage is static. So that is the reason for that one. Somebody might know more. You know, if you've got any further insight on that, please do let me know. How much damage does it actually do? Where was it there? Yeah, so basically on each at will, it's given. It's only a small amount. But I don't know. We'd need a PC player to test it, probably with the at logs and whatnot. Okay. And then all-consuming curse. That is on there because our new class feature, what they have changed is that every time that curse is applied, we get combat advantage damage, which is they've taken it off No Pity No Mercy and they've put it onto all-consuming curse. Yeah, there it is, which is a good change, really. Although it kind of unlocks us from this one and locks us into this one, but at least it frees up the at-wills and whatnot a bit. I'm aware some people are still running No Pity No Mercy. I don't feel it's necessary myself. Obviously, the dot being on Hellish Rebuke is now actually quite useful to like just tag on to things for a bit of extra DPS whilst we're doing our main, which will be the Dark Helix. Everything else has remained the same. So we've got the double scorch on instead of the soul puppet summoning, because we do have other options for summoning soul puppets now. One of the main ones being Hadar's Grasp. And obviously killing flames if we've got mobs around that we can actually kill. And yeah, the damage we're getting from that is just absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, Warlock's Curse continues. Risky Investment continues. I haven't actually tested this Soul Desecration path yet. If you're someone who has, please let me know. Obviously, the main problem with relying on the Soul Puppet in any way for damage is the fact that the AI is absolutely idiotic, and it doesn't work very well. It's going to be very, very inconsistent, basically. Yeah, this is always the big decision with with warlocks. Do we go Creeping Death or Executioner's Gift? And that's a good question. The general thing between these two is that if it dies fast, Executioner's Gift will at no point get the chance to ramp up high enough. It'll be dead before it kicks in, basically. But then you gotta... We don't know at what point this fully kicks in. So it could be you don't get the full 30% until it's down around 25% HP, unlike the bigger bosses, in which case you're going to be losing a phenomenal amount of damage, just raw DPS wise from Creeping Death up to that point. Yeah, you might have to just do individual testing on that one. I've got Creeping Death on. Obviously, with the amount of random mobs we've got in dungeons, it's just quite useful to stack all those dots up, basically. But yeah, I might do some further testing with that. Or if anybody knows, let me know. Yeah, so this is the Soul Spark Recovery sort of way of playing this, which gives us the ability to reset our encounters. It's, as far as I'm aware, it's got more DPS potential than the alternative, which for the sweatier, it's basically a pathway for the sweatier players who are prepared to contort their fingers and like get hand strain from playing and stuff like that. This other pathway is the one that's more wizard-like in its execution. We cannot reset our cooldowns, which means we need to work within a time window for our encounters. We've got to make sure that we are activating our encounter. We need our encounters to be up at certain times. So for like the artifact window, we need to ensure that our encounters are up and running. If you were running this pathway, then you would have another tacticians in here probably to get those, make sure those encounters are reset when you want them to be. Yeah, I know people are getting good damage out of this pathway. It doesn't play like a warlock for me personally though, so I'm not. I mean, I already have a wizard. If I want to, if I want to play a wizard, I will play the wizard. Right? I don't come on the warlock to play that playstyle. Ah, yeah, okay, so word of warning, don't keep yourself in combat for extended periods of time when you've got expensive overloads in, because they will disappear. Um, right, okay, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to get covered. If you have any questions, ask me in the comments. Thanks everybody for watching. The next one will probably be a Warlock Healer. I have updated the Warlock Healer build. And that's working pretty well as well. Right, okay, thank you everybody. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one. If you like a lot of videos, please leave a like. If you like this video, please leave a like. If you like a lot of videos, please subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you.